Rita Hayworth danced her way into America's heart, but off-screen she was orchestrating a series of affairs and scandals that would make your head spin. Forget the sequins and the scripts. Let's talk about the secret rendezvous with a notorious gangster, the hidden love letters that nearly toppled a government, and the dark rumors that followed her until her last days. Intrigued? You should be. This is the Rita Hayworth you were never supposed to see or know. Early life and rise to stardom. Rita Hayworth was born Margarita Carmen Cancino in Brooklyn, New York in 1918. The daughter of Spanish dancer Eduardo Cancino and American showgirl Volga Hayworth, Rita was destined for the stage from an early age, but her life was far from a fairy tale. Her father was a strict disciplinarian who pushed her into the world of dance, often at the expense of her childhood. By the age of 12, she was already performing professionally, her innocence traded for the harsh glare of the spotlight. When she was just 16, she caught the eye of Fox Film Corporation, and her family moved to Hollywood. The studio execs decided Margarita Cancino wouldn't do. She was transformed into Rita Hayworth, adopting her mother's maiden name. With her newly dyed red hair and a painful studio-mandated electrolysis procedure to raise her hairline, Rita was molded into an exotic beauty. This transformation wasn't just physical. It was a complete erasure of her ethnic background to fit into Hollywood's narrow ideals. Rita's early roles were often exoticized, playing into stereotypes that she privately loathed. But her breakthrough came with the 1941 film Blood and Sand, where she played opposite Tyrone Power. The film was a hit, and Rita became a household name. But as her star rose, so did the scrutiny into her personal life. The studio's publicity machine worked overtime to portray her as the all-American girl, a narrative that would soon crack under the weight of her real-life affairs and scandals. The fame that Rita had longed for became a double-edged sword. Yes, she was one of the most photographed women in the world, but the camera lens also captured the moments she'd rather keep hidden. And as we'll see in the coming chapters, Rita's life was filled with secrets that were as dramatic off-screen as any role she played on-screen. Marriages and relationships. Edward C. Judson. Rita was just 18 when she met Edward C. Judson, a car salesman with a knack for spotting talent. He saw in Rita not just a beautiful young woman, but a future Hollywood star. Judson became her manager, and under his guidance, Rita's career began to take off. But Judson was more than just a manager. He was a puppeteer pulling the strings of her life, both professional and personal. Judson controlled every aspect of Rita's life, from the roles she took to the clothes she wore. He was the architect behind her transformation into a Hollywood siren, but his control didn't stop at her career. He isolated her from friends and family, creating a world where he was the center. Rita, young and impressionable, mistook this control for love and care. They married in 1937, but the relationship was far from a romantic idyll. Judson's controlling nature set a precedent for Rita's future relationships, teaching her that love came with conditions and that her worth was tied to her public image. The marriage ended in 1942, but the lessons she learned from it stayed with her, shaping her choices in love and life for years to come. Judson may have been her first husband, but he was just the opening act in a series of relationships that would be played out in the public eye, each one more complicated than the last. As Rita's star continued to rise, so did the public's interest in her love life. And while she may have left Judson, the pattern of complicated, controlling relationships was far from over. Up next was a marriage to one of the most enigmatic men in Hollywood, Orson Wells, a relationship that would bring Rita both incredible joy and deep sorrow. Orson Wells. He of many talents, actor, director, writer, but perhaps his greatest talent was his ability to captivate. When Rita met Wells, she was instantly drawn to his charisma and intelligence. He was the antithesis of Judson, a man who encouraged her creativity rather than stifling it. They married in 1943, and for a brief moment it seemed like Rita had found her match. However, the marriage was far from smooth. Wells was a man consumed by his work, often leaving Rita feeling neglected. His artistic temperament clashed with her need for stability, creating a rift that grew wider as time passed. The public scrutiny didn't help. Their marriage was the subject of endless tabloid speculation, adding an extra layer of pressure. Despite the challenges, their relationship had its moments of pure magic. Wells directed Rita in The Lady from Shanghai, a film that showcased her acting abilities like never before. But the highs were outnumbered by the lows, and eventually, the marriage crumbled under the weight of their individual ambitions and insecurities. They divorced in 1947, but the impact of their tumultuous relationship lingered. Rita had gone from the controlling arms of Judson to the complex web spun by Wells, and each relationship left its mark. As she moved on, the world watched, eager to see who would be the next man to capture the heart of Hollywood's most sought-after actress. Little did they know, her next relationship would be her most scandalous yet, involving a prince who was still married when they met. Prince Ali Khan. When Rita Hayworth met Prince Ali Khan, the flamboyant son of the Aga Khan, it was as if two worlds collided. He was international royalty, a man whose life was steeped in luxury and exoticism. She was Hollywood royalty, a symbol of American beauty and glamour. Their attraction was immediate, intense, and fraught with complications. Prince Ali Khan was still legally married to his first wife, and the affair set tongues wagging across continents. The couple tried to keep their relationship a secret, but the paparazzi were relentless. Photos of them dancing in Cannes and vacationing in the French Riviera flooded the media. The scandal was too delicious for the public to ignore. An American movie star and a Muslim prince embroiled in a forbidden romance. The outcry was immediate and intense, with religious, cultural, and ethical implications. Ignoring the uproar, they married in 1949, shortly after Prince Ali Khan's divorce was finalized. The wedding was a lavish affair, but the opulence couldn't mask the issues that lay beneath. Rita had to navigate a new culture, religion, and set of family expectations, all while dealing with the relentless media scrutiny. Prince Ali Khan, for his part, struggled to balance his responsibilities as a prince and his desires as a man. The marriage was rocky from the start, and they separated just 2 years later, officially divorcing in 1953. The relationship with Prince Ali Khan was a turning point for Rita. It was scandalous, yes, but it also revealed a woman willing to defy societal norms for love, even if that love was ultimately fleeting. As she moved on, the world braced itself for her next romantic adventure, unaware that her future relationships would continue to be just as complex and headline-grabbing. Dick Haymes. Rita Hayworth's next romantic chapter was with singer and actor Dick Haymes, a man whose charm was as renowned as his financial troubles. They met at a time when both were seeking something stable, something that felt like an anchor in the chaotic seas of their lives. But stability was the last thing this union would bring. Haymes was already drowning in debt and embroiled in legal battles when he married Rita in 1953. The public was quick to label him a gold digger, speculating that he was more interested in her wealth than in Rita herself. The marriage was a roller coaster of emotions, marked by public disputes and Haymes' erratic behavior. Rita found herself not only a wife but also an unwilling financial savior to her new husband. The marriage was a public relations nightmare. Newspapers had a field day reporting on their fights, his unpaid debts, and the court cases that seemed to follow them wherever they went. The relationship was unsustainable, and they divorced in 1955, just 2 years after saying, "I do." This marriage left Rita emotionally and financially drained. It was a stark reminder that her choices in love often led her down paths fraught with complications. Yet it was these very choices that made her human, relatable, and endlessly fascinating to a public that couldn't get enough of her romantic escapades. James Hill. Just when the world thought Rita Hayworth had closed the chapter on her marital sagas, along came James Hill, a film producer with ambitions as grand as the Hollywood sign. They married in 1958, but this union was far from a fairy tale ending. Hill was a man with a vision, and unfortunately, that vision often involved using Rita as a stepping stone for his own career. From the outset, Hill seemed keen on molding Rita into a version that suited his professional aspirations. He pushed her into roles that she was uncomfortable with, most notably in the film The Happy Thieves, and which was both a critical and commercial failure. The public began to sense that Hill was the puppeteer behind Rita's career moves, and they didn't like it. The marriage was fraught with tension, both personal and professional. Rita felt manipulated and used, a sentiment that was echoed in the media. The couple's disagreements weren't just confined to their home. They spilled over into the public eye, further tarnishing Rita's image. By 1961, the marriage had unraveled, ending in a divorce that was as publicized as their wedding. Rita was once again left picking up the pieces of a broken relationship, but this time the stakes were higher. Her career had taken a hit, and she was no longer the box office magnet she once was. This marriage marked the end of Rita Hayworth's journey down the aisle, but it also signaled a shift in public perception. The world began to see her not just as a glamorous movie star caught in scandalous affairs, but as a woman who had endured a series of unfortunate relationships, each leaving its own unique scar. It was a sobering moment that added a complex layer to her already complicated persona. Rumored affairs. The ink had barely dried on her divorce papers when whispers of Rita Hayworth's rumored affairs began to circulate like wildfire. Hollywood was a breeding ground for gossip, and Rita was often the headline. From dashing co-stars to influential directors, her name was linked with many, though she never confirmed nor denied these speculations. One of the most talked about rumored affairs was with Victor Mature, her co-star in the film My Gal Sal. On-screen chemistry spilled into real life, or so the rumors suggested. Then there was Glenn Ford, another co-star from the film Gilda, who was said to have had a more than professional relationship with Rita. The list went on. Frank Sinatra, Kirk Douglas, and even the billionaire Howard Hughes were said to have been captivated by her. These rumored affairs added another layer of complexity to Rita's already complicated love life. While they were never substantiated, they did contribute to her image as a femme fatale, a woman both desired and unattainable. Yet for Rita, these rumors were a double-edged sword. They kept her in the spotlight, but also cast a shadow over her professional achievements, often reducing her to a tabloid sensation rather than a talented actress. The speculation around her love life became so pervasive that it was nearly impossible to separate Rita Hayworth, the actress, from Rita Hayworth, the scandalous beauty. Each rumored affair seemed to chip away at her credibility, leaving the public to wonder, who was the real Rita Hayworth behind all these headlines? The Scandalous Press. The media was an uninvited guest in Rita Hayworth's life, always lurking in the shadows, ready to pounce on any morsel of scandal. From the earliest days of her career, tabloids and gossip columns feasted on her personal life, often overshadowing her professional accomplishments. The press had a field day with each of her marriages, rumored affairs, and even her divorces. Headlines like Rita's Love Triangle or The Scandalous Life of Rita Hayworth were not uncommon, but it wasn't just the tabloids. Even reputable newspapers and magazines couldn't resist the allure of Rita's tumultuous love life. Interviews that were supposed to focus on her latest film roles would inevitably veer into personal territory, asking intrusive questions about her relationships and past. The media's obsession with her personal life was relentless, and Rita found herself perpetually on the defensive, trying to protect her privacy while also maintaining her public image. The press's portrayal of Rita was often reductive, painting her as a homewrecker, a femme fatale, or a victim, never as a woman with agency making choices for herself. This narrative was not only unfair but also damaging. It perpetuated stereotypes about women in Hollywood, contributing to a culture that often blamed them for the scandals they were embroiled in, rather than examining the systemic issues that allowed such scandals to occur in the first place. The media's role in Rita Hayworth's life was nothing short of transformative. From the moment she stepped into the limelight, newspapers, magazines, and later television shows were infatuated with her. While her beauty and talent were undeniable, the press seemed equally, if not more, interested in her personal life. The media's insatiable appetite for scandal turned her into a constant headline, often overshadowing her professional achievements. In an era where the concept of celebrity was still evolving, Rita found herself at the mercy of a press corps that was learning to wield its newfound power. Tabloids sensationalized her relationships, making her private affairs a public spectacle. Journalists would camp outside her home, follow her to film sets, and even intrude on her vacations, all in the hopes of catching a glimpse of something scandalous. The narrative they built around her was one of a femme fatale, a seductress who couldn't be tamed, which was far removed from her actual personality. The media's portrayal of Rita was not just invasive, it was often damaging. Stories were published with little regard for accuracy, and rumors were presented as facts. The press seemed to take a particular delight in her marital woes, dissecting each relationship with a level of scrutiny that would be considered invasive even by today's standards. This constant media attention took a toll on her emotionally and contributed to the strain on her relationships. What's more, the media's obsession with her personal life had a ripple effect on her career. Producers and directors became wary of casting her, fearing that the scandals would overshadow the projects she was involved in. The roles she was offered started to mirror the image the press had created of her, limiting her ability to showcase her range as an actress. Yet, despite the relentless media scrutiny, Rita Hayworth managed to maintain a level of dignity that endeared her to her fans. She understood the double-edged sword that was fame. It could make her a star, but also imprison her in a cage of public opinion. For Rita, the constant media scrutiny was a heavy burden to bear. It was as if her real self had been eclipsed by the persona the press had created for her. And while she may have been a star in the eyes of the public, she was also a human being, struggling to find her footing in a world that was quick to judge and slow to forgive. The impact on her career. The question that looms large is whether the media circus surrounding Rita Hayworth's personal life had a tangible impact on her career. The answer is complex. On one hand, the constant media attention kept her in the public eye, making her one of the most talked about and recognizable stars of her time. This visibility often translated into box office success, as audiences were curious to see the woman behind the headlines. However, the flip side of this fame was the typecasting and limited roles that came her way. Directors and producers were hesitant to cast her in roles that diverged from the public's perception of her. The Rita Hayworth brand had become so entwined with scandal and sensuality that it was difficult for her to break free and explore a wider range of characters. This led to a certain stagnation in her career, as she found herself playing variations of the same role over and over again. Moreover, the constant scrutiny and stress took a toll on her emotionally, affecting her ability to focus on her craft. There were roles she lost due to the controversies that swirled around her, and others she had to turn down to manage the chaos in her personal life. Yet, despite these challenges, Rita Hayworth remained a consummate professional. She continued to deliver memorable performances and even managed to secure roles that allowed her to showcase her versatility as an actress, albeit not as frequently as she would have liked. In retrospect, while her personal life may have cast a shadow over her career, it never completely eclipsed her talent. Rita Hayworth was more than the sum of her scandals. She was an artist, capable of evoking a range of emotions from audiences and leaving an indelible mark on the world of cinema. Later life. As Rita Hayworth aged, she became increasingly aware of the need to manage her public image, especially in light of the scandals and media frenzy that had characterized much of her life. She took a step back from the limelight, choosing roles that were less demanding but still meaningful. She also became more guarded in her interactions with the press, aiming to preserve what was left of her private life. Health issues began to take a toll on her, both physically and mentally. Despite these challenges, she never lost her grace or her sense of dignity. She became an emblem of resilience, a woman who had weathered countless storms but still stood tall. Her legacy is a complex tapestry woven from threads of immense talent, undeniable beauty, and a life lived in the public eye. She remains an icon, not just for the roles she played on screen, but for the life she lived off it. Rita Hayworth broke barriers and defied societal norms, all while captivating audiences worldwide. The scandals and affairs that once dominated headlines have now become footnotes in the story of a remarkable woman who was so much more than the sum of her controversies. Today, she is remembered for her contributions to cinema, her groundbreaking roles, and her ability to captivate audiences like no other. In the context of her affairs and scandals, Rita Hayworth's legacy serves as a cautionary tale about the price of fame, but also as an inspiring story of resilience and artistic integrity. She navigated a world that was often unkind to her, armed with nothing but her talent and her will to survive. And survive she did, leaving behind a body of work and a legacy that continue to enchant and inspire to this day.